All right, gang, what's up? Um, I actually, I've had this. This has been a video idea, just because I knew I'd make a good video. But then yesterday, something happened yesterday, and it just struck me, and I was like, ah, you're pressing record tomorrow after your routine. So here we are pressing record. With that, you might be asking, what happened yesterday to make you do this? Short. I'm gonna make this short so I can just not talk about me and just talk about the important stuff. Short story short, I walked to the track because I don't stay far from a track. Walked to the track, did a little workout, walked back home, whatever. As I was walking home, there was just like a random car on the complete opposite side of the road, and they just yelled out "fuck you," and I was like, oh, okay, he just yelled that out, and I'm just walking home, and I was like out loud, I was like, oh, all right, well, hope you have a good day, brother. I don't know what's going on in your life, but I hope you have a good day. And that whole like 10 seconds, I don't know what it was, but something just struck me, and it was like, we're gonna talk about sonder next. I have it tattooed on my knee. I was gonna show it, but it's just extra. I was only gonna do it because I like showing off my tattoos. Irrelevant. Sonder. It's basically, I already know the definition, so I'm not gonna look it up. It's 12 o'clock. We're good. It's basically the profound and realization and understanding that everybody's life and passerby and individuals and characters that you see is just as complex as yours. Meaning that like their day-to-day stuff, like you have no idea what they're going through. Their life is harder than yours, worse than yours, just as simple as yours, and also that you are literally a grain of sand and a beach. And think about how small of a grain of sand is and how big a beach is. That's you. That's me. That's this dog. It's my mom. You know what I mean? So, like I said, the video came from me, or this idea just hit me yesterday because the random guy who said fuck you when I was walking home, right? And it kind of just like dawned on me. I was like, I wonder what he's going through. Not on like a deeper, not on like, oh my gosh, I wonder what your life is like. No. It was just like a 5 second, not even five, a 2 second random interaction. It just sat differently. You know what I mean? It just reminded me, hey, he's 1 in 8 billion. What's he going through? That's basically what it was. That's really what it was. It was just like, oh, this random person said something to you. Oh, I wonder what he's going through. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And I'll never know. But I think that's like the cool thing about it. So, a way that I want you to think about it, and I'm gonna try to start using you instead of so it doesn't seem like I'm talking about myself and I'm talking to you instead. I want you to like try to start like thinking about the word sonder pretty frequently. Not like all the time. Cause it's really never that deep. For me, it is. That's why I got it tattooed. But this is you. I'm not talking about me. Because I see it as, and how I want you to see it. Excuse me, is a reminder to yourself that it's exactly how the definition says, that every person's life is like you don't know what they're going through. You know what I mean? And like from my example that I made earlier of last night, I kid you not, and like I'm not homeless. If you just saw me, you would know that I have some form of income. I have tattoos. I have decent clothes. My hair's dyed. My hair's pretty like it's pretty solid quality. So it's like you can tell like I take care of myself, right? Now the reason I say that is because a stranger sees another stranger walking. Said stranger yells "fuck you" at random stranger. There's also strangers out there who are just on the streets. That's also another thing that like just hit me last night when I was walking and just ties into sonder, right? Like, and that's also why, or that just ties, yeah. I don't know where I was gonna start going with that, but a reason, like a way that I want you to think about it is that like everybody's treated differently, and like yes, you know that on a surface level because you see how people are treated, you see how people carry themselves when they have a conversation, how like their emotions are. But it's like you see it, but I feel like at least from how I see it in the college standpoint, is it's kind of just like a lot of people just, it's momentary. You see it and then you just forget about it, right? But for me, and how I want you to think about it is just like constantly remind yourself that you literally just never know. You never know what they're going through. Like I said last night, and I started thinking about people who stay on the streets. It just dawned on me. I was like, pause. I was like, dude, I don't even like. There's people who stay out here every single day, and I'm like, if I'm just one random person walking home, and we just so happen to be at the same place at the same time, I couldn't imagine what it's like for people who are there all the time, when there's always somebody at their place at their same time. I couldn't imagine that, and how they're treated. And I'm not like, brother, I have a solid life. I have a comfortable living. But it's the fact that like there's I don't know. I don't know where I was gonna go with that. But it was just like just how you treat people also. That's another really big thing. And it's like just like I said, you don't know what they're going through, so it's a reminder to just treat them how you want to be treated. It sounds so like basic. You've heard that since you were like 3 years old, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Think about a homeless guy you've seen. If what is like? I was gonna tie back to my example, but I want to get off of my example now because I don't want to keep talking about me. Think about if you were homeless. Yeah, because that's what I did. Think about if you're homeless and some random person just drives by and they just yell "fuck you." Like, I'm gonna, if I'm thinking about living like a homeless person, I'm gonna assume that they've been there, like in that situation for a some given time, and they're unfortunately already used to being treated bad. But it's like, time out. That sentence that I just said shouldn't even make sense. That shouldn't even, like, that's the whole point of this video. I don't know if that made sense, but that's the whole point of this. That sentence that I stated, that shouldn't even make sense. You know what I mean? I hope you understand that. I don't know how much sense that makes entirely, but yeah. But that's one reason. Treat others how you want to be treated, dude. It's so basic and so cliche, but it's so true. I wouldn't want some random guy yelling at me, disrespecting me when I don't even know him if I've done nothing to him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for that. Like, I'm not finna treat somebody that way. I hope others wouldn't treat me that way. Unfortunately, it happened. But it's like I said. He said it, and I was just like, hey, I hope you have a good day, stranger. I'm not finna. You can't mess up my vibe. I had a great day, a great little workout. You feel me? But that's just one reason. And then another thing that you can think about is I try to. This will be another video later, but it'll be talking about like character development and who you are as a character and not as an individual in your name, if that makes sense. But like I said, that's sort of for a different day. But the reason I bring that up is because I don't think of people, and I don't think that. I feel that you should try to think of people not by their name and, oh, this is such and such and this is such and such, but instead their character, right? And I don't want to talk about too much because I want to save that for the main video. But characters in like, all right, myself for example, I would describe my character as in the very clumsy person. Meaning that like if you're around me for just like a month straight, I'm gonna lose something, something's gonna break, we're gonna forget something, like very clumsy, forgetful. Part of my character is being very thoughtful and a deep thinker. Part of my character is being very spontaneous and random. Again, not gonna go on it too much. But those are things of my character, right? My name is B, by the way. So it's like, if you were to ask somebody, right, you're like, okay, what's B like? They're not going to say those things, right? Because they're asking who B is. Who? It's so weird just talking to a camera, like saying it out loud. I don't know. Anyways, but you're asking somebody who B is, and they'd say, oh, he goes to the gym, Oh, he's really big into fitness. He's an athlete. He likes helping people. He likes working with others. They probably tell you I'm really spontaneous and random and goofy. But then those are like base things, right? Like that's B. The character side, that's like the character of who you are, right? That's when it gets into like excuse me, the clumsiness and the forgetfulness. That's part of your character. Like who you are is like the base things. I like who you are is the base things that everybody would say. Your character is, I say, like things that are like truly you, things that like you know about yourself that 80% of people aren't gonna notice unless they just pay that much attention. But the reason I say that and talk about character in general is because I want you to try to implement thinking like that into interactions that you have. Like try to meet new characters. I'm not like, again, I just like using the word character because like it makes so much more sense in my mind. I have a really big, like, I got a hard difference between people and characters. If I'm like, so for one is way over here and the other's way over there, right? They're completely separate in my mind. But I want you to just meet new people and meet them and talk to them with the intentions of literally, I don't know a single thing about you. You don't know a single thing about me. What do you want to talk about? You're 1 in 8 billion. I'm 1 in 8 billion. How vastly different is your life than mine? And see where it goes. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. You could talk to them for 5 minutes. You could talk to them for an hour. They could say no. You could not talk to them at all. Like, it could be a minute conversation. You know what I mean? But I want you to try it and try understanding that, like, just accepting people for who they are. Also, that's another reason I got it, and another thing that like I think will help you just play into being a people person in general. You know what I mean? So like, let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh, my ankles and feet are bad. They just pop. Like, it'd be like 2 seconds. Hold on. Coffee. I remember where I was gonna go now. Another thing that I think you should do when you think about it and when you meet people is, fam, take them for who they are, cuz. Take them for who they are first, second, third, fourth, fifth, however, every single impression, right? Meaning that, like, you might meet somebody and off of your first impression, there's already something about them that, like, you just don't like. Not in a bad way, but it's just the truth, right? It's just like, you might meet somebody and their breath may stink a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine. Everybody breath, ain't nobody breath perfect. You feel me? But hey, anyways, I don't know where I was gonna go with that. But anyways, let's say you just meet a person and their breath stinks a little bit, right? And one of your big things is hygiene, right? And then off of that, your first impression might be like, well, damn, they're a little musty, a little stinky, whatever, right? I lied, because that's brushing your teeth is a part of your character. That's just personal hygiene. Better example, cheating. Way better example, actually. Let's say you just meet somebody for the first time, and somehow relationships get brought up. Group setting. Paint the picture. You're in a group setting. You're meeting new people for the first time. Conversations get brought up. Cheating gets brought up, right? And again, group setting, you don't know anybody. So again, you're 1 in 8 billion. The person to your left is 1 in 8 billion. The person in front of you is 1 in 8 billion. The person right here is 1 in 8 billion, right? The reason I say this is because I want you to understand literally that you are just like an ant in an anthill. That's all we are. That's all you are. That's all I am. But the whole reason I'm saying this is so you can meet as many ants as possible. so you can get as many experiences from every single ant. And you can meet the best ants in the world, and you can meet the worst ants in the world, but you can grow from every single ant. So, again, that's why I keep saying 1 in 8 billion, because I want to like seriously preface that, right? So, back to my example. You table however many people. None of y'all are literally just meeting. Like y'all probably like, well, let's just say y'all hung out for like the last hour or whatever. But premise is, y'all met today. Y'all don't know anything about each other, right? Conversating, relationships get brought up, cheating gets brought up, and then you start feeling some type of way, right? Right. And then again, you're just naturally feeling some type of way. One, because you don't know them, and then you might, whatever your stance is on cheating, you have that for a reason. I'll just leave it at that, right? But you don't know their character. You know what I mean? You don't know their stance on cheating. You know what I mean? So then it's like, your first impression of them is, oh, okay, well, they've cheated. I already don't like you because I know you've done something bad in the past, right? Right. Whereas you're thinking in a closed off mindset, not thinking about how everybody's life is unique, and you know, like there potentially might be some sort of reasoning for it, right? Right. And again, this is just first impression. So first impression, you're already like, I'm iffy just because you cheated. Sorry, but I'm not giving you a second chance, right? Whereas, you know, I try, like what you should try to do is, instead of like let's say again in this hypothetical, in the conversation, it probably like did get brought up. I'm assuming, like if you're conversating, talk about cheating, someone cheats, I'd assume that they would probably explain why. But then it's also like, let's say they explain, and then you're like, you feel a little better, right? Or at least you understand, right? At least a lot of people I know, they're still like, if somebody says they cheat, they explain why, they're like, yeah, I don't care. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Be the person who's like just comes from understanding. Like, don't be the person who comes from judgment. Don't be the one who gets the ick because they cheated and that's your first impression. No, be the person who wants to know more about it. You know what I mean? Be the person who's engaging in the conversations, asking them to elaborate on it. Not to have them like lore drop. I don't know. I mean, if you want to, yeah. But I mean, everybody, like, I've cheated, for example. But I'll say, to make this very, very short, because I think I've talked about this in a past video. One of the things with cheating and like learning is that like you only, however much you like commit to learning to it, or like learning why you cheated, right, and like figuring out what it was you went wrong, why you did the things you did. The amount of learning you commit to doing that, like, okay, this is an example. I can't get my words down, but it's still gonna make sense. You have a math test. The amount of practice you put in towards taking that math test is gonna determine your score. I cheated. The amount of thought and like, what is it? The amount of thought and like pondering that I'll put into why I cheated will only, like, I'll actually learn so much as to it. Like, if I have one day where I'm like, dang, why did I cheat? Next week, I'm not really gonna realize as much. Whereas, if I think about why I cheated for 5 days out of the week, next week will come and I'll actually have learned a lot more and I'll understand a lot more about myself, right? That's what I'm getting at. So the whole reason we're saying that is so you can be that person. Instead of getting the ick from a first impression or feeling some type of way about the first impression, you can instead take the first impression, and instead of your emotions acting out in a certain way, you can go off of your brain and thinking, and you can start pondering actual smart questions to start just like questions, thought-provoking questions, basically. And instead of hearing somebody talk and then you feel some type of way, you can hear somebody talk and then ask thought-provoking questions to come from a place of understanding and learn more. There we go. That's what I was trying to get to. That took way too long to get that, but yeah, I think that's a really good one, and it also just makes like I think it makes conversations just flow better. You know what I mean? You understand people easier. You might not understand people easier, but it makes meeting people easier, and it makes get no, it makes expressing yourself and others expressing themselves easier because when you understand sonder and when you like apply it to your life, you carry yourself differently, and others see that. And when you carry yourself that way in front of them, and you're connecting with them, it'll give them subconsciously just like relief, and then they might talk more, they might open up more, they might be themselves. You might see their true emotions. You figure out who their character is. Do you understand them greater than just the surface level? You know what I mean? There's just like so many things. Another thing that I feel really ties into sonder is traveling and just meeting people and creating experiences. For short example, I went to New York last Christmas. Yeah, last December, around or like a couple weeks before Christmas. It was December. Family vacation. Me and my mom. My mom got a friend who stays up there too with her. Now, the reason I bring up New York is because if you've never been to New York, it's exactly how it looks in the movies. There's no difference, kid you not, from the streets, the parks, the people, like nothing. And I'm not dogging on New York. I actually really liked it. Too expensive for my taste. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Now, the reason I bring up New York is because, at least from a U.S. standpoint, I guess New York is perceived as like one of the places you want to go if you want to make it out, if you want to start a new life, if you want to chase your dreams or do whatever. You know what I mean? New York is perceived as like, hey, you go there to restart. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things I like about it. But one of the reasons that I brought it up is because a lot of people think that way, or at least like from my understanding of how people perceive New York and whatnot, that's how like a lot of people think about it. And like from going there, that kind of is like I talked to some people. I didn't talk to like strangers too much. Also, just we were just like doing stuff, so I didn't have time to like just sit down and just like, hey, let's talk for like 20 minutes. You know what I mean? But there are people who are just like that. You can like probably ask somebody, they'll be like, oh, I got here, I don't know, like 6 months ago. I'm trying to do new stuff, right? Now, the reason I bring it up is because a lot of those people are already in a certain mindset when it comes to understanding that they are 1 in 8 billion. Now, I might not say like I'm assuming they understand it, duh. But it's like they understand it in terms of they are leaving their situation to go embrace 1 in 8 billion. They want to make the most of being 1 in 8 billion. They want to greater connections. They want to greater experiences. They want them as one single ant want to contribute the most to the anthill that they humanly can. They understand that very well. There we go. I think that makes sense. And I think that's just like one of the whole things that goes into like experiences, and a whole reason that you should think about the word sonder and you should apply it to your life. I mean, there's like a million things, dude. There's a million benefits, and it's just one word. You know what I mean? I'll say one of my favorite things, and I think that you should try it too, Learning new stuff, right? And that sounds like so surface level cliche because everybody can learn new stuff whenever. But learning new stuff as in just like, or no. Hold on. Let me off topic. No, I lied because I talked about this in the last video. The lady I work for on the weekends, electrical, whatever. Like I said in the last video, I know nothing about making houses and electrical wiring. It's just not my thing at all. I've never thought about it, never been interested. I'm mainly into health and fitness and nutrition. Those are my interests and hobbies. With that though, even applying what my job is and sonder and what I'm doing, you can like start something new, learn something new, and then get in their world of interest and what it is you're learning, right? So like, say you start a new job. Here we go. We use a better example. Say you start a new job and it's something that you literally just have zero knowledge about, right? Like my short example with this building house, brother. Only thing I knew about building houses and like electrical wiring is that all of them needed to go back to a breaker box somewhere. Okay, and I didn't like that's brother. That's it. I didn't know nothing else. I didn't know how. Yeah. But starting a new job that you have absolutely zero interest in nothing, or like you got some interest, but it's just like you ain't really thought about it for real. But like sponging in information is what I'm getting to though. Like when you start that new job, like you can be a sponge, absorb everything. I'm not just saying absorb what you're learning. I'm saying absorb the environment, absorb the aesthetic, absorb the workers, absorb who's training you, how they talk about things, the things that they talk about, how they enunciate themselves, their grammar, their etiquette. Like it all just plays into sonder. It all plays into understanding that their life is vastly different from yours. You know what I mean? And it's like observing is a big part of sonder, sort of, but I really think it's experiencing. I really think when like experiencing sonder to some form is when you see differences in your life. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to make an example. Let me hold on. Well, I can't think of an example, but I'll just flip it on you. Think about whatever your goals are, right? And I'm not just talking like surface level goals, as in like get a certain job, career, whatever. No, I'm talking like if you want to travel, why do you want to travel? And I'm not talking about to see the world, right? Because some people, they say they want to travel. You ask them why. Oh, to see the world, create memories. No, I want to answer deeper than that. So you, for example, let's say, think of one goal you have or something that you want to do. Why do you want to do that, right? Now I'm sure you have your base answer, but what's your answer deeper than the base level? I tell my friends the iceberg example. Literally, just think about typical iceberg, top of the level iceberg, bottom of the level. Whatever it is, let's say you want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor because at the top of the iceberg, I want to help people. At the next level, because my mom's a doctor. I don't know. The next level, because my grandma's a doctor, and your grandma you might have a close relationship with her. And then the next level, so on and so forth. Basically, the deeper you go in the iceberg, the more like heavy it is. You know what I mean? And that's what I want you to think about, because I think that can also apply to sonder, because it's like then you understand yourself. You grasp that you're 1 in 8 billion, right? but then it's like then you understand what you were even thinking about it for. You know what I mean? Like you know that you want to be a nurse or a doctor, and you know why that you want to be a doctor, and you kind of know really why, but then it's like then you really know why, or then it's like you maybe don't know. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to create more examples here about myself, but excuse me. One of my things is I want to travel. Surface level things is I would like to see the world. I would like to create experiences, create memories, pictures, whatever. Another level is that my PlayStation went dark. Never mind. Another level is so I can meet people. And then another reason is so I can spread wisdom and thought and give insight, right? Those are like, and I'm sure there's another one, another something under the surface there that I can't think about at the time. But those are things where it's like you can apply one simple word and you can just give certain things more and more thought and more understanding. And hold on, sorry. I probably should have been drinking water. But yeah, I want you to think about a goal of yours, and think about the word sonder with your goal, and mesh those two together, and think about what your goal really is and what your goal really means to you and why that is even your goal in general. Like I said, better one. I'm not gonna talk about this one deeply, but me being an exercise science major, right? I have like that's something where my iceberg is like a lot like the reason why I want to travel iceberg, it's about this big. It's not a big iceberg, but there's like levels to it. Why I'm an exercise science major, that iceberg is about this big. There's layers to the iceberg, right? But again, that's also because I've understood sonder. I've questioned myself, and I've questioned my goals, and I've questioned things that I want to do, and then not necessarily like you obviously apply the questions, duh. But for this example, when it comes to thinking about yourself, it's just one of those you just like. It's just the more you, like I made with the math and cheating example. The more you practice it, just the better it is, and that's again just another surface level cliche saying, but it's just true. The more you question yourself, and the more you try to figure out things about yourself, the more potential answers you'll have. Now you could ask questions and then you'll just have more questions, and then more questions. But you could ask yourself questions, surface level questions, which will get you surface level answers, right? Then you take those answers and reapply them into new questions, right? And then you just increase the depth of the iceberg and added another layer of questioning and thinking and reasoning and understanding. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I hope so. I kind of zoned out, like with my pillow and messing with it, so that kind of threw me off. But yeah. Speaking of pillow, I need to wash my sheets again. I did them like 3-4 days ago. But these guys are pretty dirty. Anyways, sonder. It's an amazing word. It really is an amazing word. I love it. You should love it. You should think about the word. You should do a deep dive into the word. You should figure out what the word means to you. Once you figure out what the word means to you, you should try to apply it to your life. You should try to meet just as many people as you can. Even if it's such a small interaction, you don't know how that interaction will affect them. I kid you not, perfect example with myself. And I'm not trying to make examples of myself, but this is literally just one of those where it's like I had an interaction with somebody and it was so small of an interaction, but it affected me so largely. I was at the gym doing plyos, and at this point in time, this was probably sometime last month. At this time, what is it? my fitness wasn't where I wanted it to be, so I was kind of like getting the groove of things going again. So it's like the plows that I was doing, it was nowhere near what I really wanted to be doing. But anyway, some lady was like, "Oh my gosh, you're jumping really, like what you're doing is really, really cool. You're gonna be great. You're gonna make it to the Olympics." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." Right, right. But the fact of it is, I was at a place in my mind where I was again, and I've been 1 in 8 billion. Right, I had things that I was going on or going through with my life. Right, and another stranger who I've never seen, I haven't seen her again since that, just said we had a 30-second interaction, and that 30-second interaction completely changed the mood. I wouldn't have thought about that. I didn't plan on it. I was just there. But it's something that so small and such a just like literally just one stranger, crazy effect. And yeah, I would have never thought about it. And you should do the same. I think my coffee's empty. Hold on. No, it's not. Cinnamon roll and sweet Italian cream. Anyways, future topics, leave in the comments. I'll say that in the beginning of the videos. Other than that, that's all I got. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate y'all, gang.